Right now, people don't have, that is, institutional investors don't have any easy way to support Bitcoin or buy it in an economically responsible fashion. And so they just stay out. When you see these spot ETFs get put in place, you're going to be creating the equivalent of a 6-lane superhighway between Wall Street and Bitcoin. And now you're going to see billions and billions of dollars flow. In some cases, billions a week. In some cases, could be billions a day. And until you see it, you won't see any capital flow from those institutions. It's trapped in the 20th century asset classes.
At a time when the spot Bitcoin ETFs appear likely to be the next big market movers in the crypto ecosystem, MicroStrategy co-founder and Bitcoin supporter Michael Saylor explained a key gap that should explain the need for approval of the spot ETFs. Saylor believes that a spot Bitcoin ETF is going to be the biggest market mover for Bitcoin, which comes as a surprise as everyone had eyes set on the Bitcoin halving next year. But with recent happenings in the ETF filings, including the fake approval news that gave Bitcoin a massive pump, hopes are shooting up the roof as everyone is standing on tiptoe waiting for the approval of the spot Bitcoin ETF. Meanwhile, it remains to be seen how MicroStrategy, the world's largest institutional holder of Bitcoin, could pace its buying accumulation strategy if and when the spot ETF become reality, as the likes of BlackRock and Fidelity would have to accumulate high volumes of Bitcoin to operate the ETF. Also, this would in turn generate a lot of demand for the cryptocurrency. Let's now get into the video as Michael Saylor explains the plans for the ETFs and the future he sees for the Bitcoin ecosystem. Please make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and drop your comments as you watch. Enjoy.
You know, I've said many times before, I've said, if it's not going to zero, it's going to 1 million. The reason it would go to zero is it's illegitimate or getting banned. And so the question is it illegitimate? Well, obviously not. It's an asset without an issuer. It's the world's first digital commodity and the greatest digital commodity. It's the only globally acknowledged digital commodity in the world. There's controversy about everything else. Bitcoin is the one non-controversial thing. So it is a legitimate asset. And is it being banned? Obviously not. The Chinese haven't banned it. It's deemed property in China. The Russians haven't banned it. It's property in Russia. The Americans haven't banned it. It's property in America. All of the controversy in our marketplace right now is surrounding crypto exchanges, the trading of unregistered securities, other tokens, and stable coins. And then the usage of these crypto tokens as a high-speed dollar substitute, a currency substitute. There's lots of controversy there. There will continue to be controversy. It is unclear how all that sorts itself out, except for the fact that there are two great conclusions you can come to over the past 24 months. Wall Street, the regulators, and the mainstream investment community endorses Bitcoin and appreciates Bitcoin. And everybody's skeptical of the rest of the crypto ecosystem, right? Bitcoin, yes. Crypto, not so sure, right? So that's where we are right now. I have met with lots of executives from these companies that are bringing spot ETFs to market. I can tell you for a fact, nobody wants to fix Bitcoin. Nobody wants to change Bitcoin. They've approached it with humility. They've approached it with grace. Their view is Bitcoin is a digital asset. People in the world seem to want it. We should do our part to provide services to make it easy to acquire and hold Bitcoin. Now, in time, right, the first and easiest step and the most critical step is that spot ETF, because that'll open up the superhighway for, it's like a power line for hundreds of billions of dollars of capital to flow into the ecosystem. But eventually, Google and Apple will embrace Bitcoin. And when Google or Apple embraces Bitcoin and Apple puts some sort of Bitcoin signing device into the iPhone, there will be some people that will be skeptical and they will say, oh, we could never trust Apple. And that's reasonable. And other people will say, oh, well, it's an option for the masses that don't know how to, operate their own hardware wallet. And there'll be a debate, and then there'll be an avalanche, and then Apple, the Amazon will do something, and then Microsoft will build it into their browser, and then people will hate that. And then some other company will come up with a better Bitcoin-only one, and we'll like that. And maybe they'll succeed, and they'll grow and be 10 or 100x, and maybe they won't. And then maybe at some point we'll wake up and there'll be $4 billion, which will be of 4 billion people, and they will self-custody some amount of their own Bitcoin. And then they will have other Bitcoin that will be in an ETF in their retirement plan, because their employer required that they actually have their retirement plan with a securities custodian. And the world will be heterogeneous. And we should embrace everybody that supports Bitcoin, however they support Bitcoin. You won't agree with them. Maybe you won't like that nation, and you won't like that company, and you won't like that money manager. And you will always have the option to do your own thing, and that's what makes Bitcoin beautiful.
The SEC has so far resisted approving spot Bitcoin ETFs, citing risks such as fraud and market manipulation. However, the SEC recently indicated that it won't appeal an August court ruling that may pave the way for the $18.4 billion Grayscale Bitcoin Trust to convert to an ETF. Bloomberg Intelligence said approval of a spot Bitcoin ETF looks inevitable, and that several funds are likely to be given the green light, although the exact timing remains uncertain. Michael reiterates how important approval of a Bitcoin ETF is for the ecosystem. He considers the spot ETF as the #1 milestone for Bitcoin to gain global acceptance. Let us listen to what he says about this.
The most important one, the one that's going to dominate this cycle, is going to be the spot ETF. Because futures ETFs are just literally defective, right? If I said I'm going to charge you a 10% fee per year to invest your money, like your money's gone in 7 years, right? I'm just taking it all, right? So that makes no sense. So the spot ETF is going to be critical. It's going to solve the problem of how do I custody the Bitcoin? Most of these companies and investors, if they want to establish their own custody program, it's very scary, right? Have you noticed how many custodians have failed? And the issue is, how do I find an institutional grade custodian? And okay, well, you could say, like, you should self-custody. Well, how does, who at Microsoft is supposed to self-custody? Right? Like, do you want to you're going to give $100 billion of Bitcoin to the CFO and have the CFO walk around with the private keys? Like, who wants that job, right? Like, how are you going to do multi-sig? Well, which 3 people at Microsoft, right? So it becomes a question, and it takes them a year or 2 years to answer the question. And is it possible? Sure it is. It just takes 2 or 3 years. And so if we want mass adoption, we have to solve the problem of custody, and then we have to solve the problem of compliance, right? If I'm an investor and I have $10 billion of capital and I want to buy $100 million worth of Apple stock, I can do it in 30 seconds via BlackRock or via one of my major money managers. And I don't even have to come up with $100 million. I could have a nickel, make a phone call and say, buy $100 million of Apple stock, put the phone down, and have all the money at the end of the day without putting up in cash. And it would be my bank, like JP Morgan, that would front me the money. So you see, it's completely financeable, no money down. I can do it in 30 seconds. And then it flows into my systems, like my accounting system, my compensation system. When Apple stock doubles, the portfolio manager that actually made the buy wants to get paid. So how do I attribute the success of the investment to the person that made the investment when it's changing every minute of the day? How do I pay taxes on it? How do I make sure I don't have a Nick Leeson situation where one portfolio manager makes a $10 billion bet and bankrupts the entire firm, right? So these are all pedestrian problems, but they're solved by that spot ETF plugged into the money manager. That's going to be the #1 driver, right? And that's going to dwarf everything else in the near term.
The SEC charges for the world's largest asset manager came on the same day as a DTCC listing of its spot Bitcoin ETF was spotted. However, a spokesperson from DTCC confirmed that the listing has been there since August. The United States Securities and Exchange Commission has fined investment advisor BlackRock Advisors $2.5 million, accusing it of failing to accurately describe investments in the entertainment industry that comprise a significant portion of a publicly traded fund it managed. According to the SEC's filing between 2015 and 2019, BlackRock Multi-Sector Income Trust, BIT, made sizable investments in a print and advertising business called Aviron Group that worked on 1 to 2 films annually through a loan facility. The SEC alleged that BlackRock incorrectly referred to Aviron as a company that provided diversified financial services in several BIT's annual and semi-annual reports that were made available to investors publicly. The SEC also alleged that BlackRock misrepresented Aviron's interest rate by claiming that it was higher than it was. However, the asset manager discovered these errors in 2019 and corrected information about Aviron's investment in the following years. Andrew Dean, co-chief of the Enforcement Division's Asset Management Unit at the SEC, said that the investment advisors have a responsibility to provide accurate, vital information about the assets of the funds it manages, and BlackRock failed to do so with the Aviron investment. BlackRock agreed to pay the $2.5 million penalty for the incorrect investment disclosure agreement. Although the investment was unrelated to the crypto ecosystem, the world's largest asset manager has been in the crypto spotlight for its proposed spot Bitcoin exchange-traded fund, ETF. The SEC's charges against BlackRock for investment discourse failure came on the same day as its spot Bitcoin exchange-traded fund, ETF, was noticed listed on the Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation, DTCC, listing prompting many to believe the spot Bitcoin approval is near. Senior Bloomberg ETF analyst Eric Balchunas called the DTCC listing all part of the process of bringing a crypto ETF to market. However, within hours of the DTC listing, the spot Bitcoin ETF was removed from the platform and reappeared within hours, creating confusion among the crypto community. However, a DTCC spokesperson later confirmed that the iShares Bitcoin ETF has been listed on the platform since August and said the move is not indicative of any regulatory approval. Do you think the charges on BlackRock would affect the approval of their spot Bitcoin ETF? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. Remember to give us a like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Thanks for watching.